The crystal glasses clinked as my mother-in-law's perfectly manicured nails tapped against them, demanding attention. My stomach clenched. I knew that look in her eyes. A toast, Anthea announced to our family gathered around the dining table, to my son's wonderful achievement at the firm. She paused, her gaze settling on me. And to Sydney, who I'm sure will make an excellent housewife now that she's settling into married life. I'm Sydney Craig, and 6 months into my marriage, I was already failing at being the daughter-in-law Anthea wanted. The weight of her expectations pressed against my chest like a stone. Actually, I said, forcing a smile, I have some news of my own. The Mumbai Chronicle offered me a position as a junior reporter. The silence that followed was deafening. Emery, my husband, reached for my hand under the table and squeezed it. At least someone was on my side. How interesting, Anthea said, her smile never reaching her eyes. Though I'm sure you'll reconsider once you and Emery start thinking about children. I don't plan to give up my career, Anthea. Journalism is my passion. Passion doesn't build a home, dear. She turned to her daughter Aurora, who sat quietly across the table. Remember when Aurora gave up that silly photography hobby? Now she's focusing on what truly matters. Aurora's eyes met mine briefly before dropping to her plate. I'd seen her camera hidden away in her closet, gathering dust. Mom, Emery intervened. Sydney's brilliant at what she does. You should read some of her articles. I'm sure they're lovely, darling. But we Craig women have certain responsibilities. Your father didn't build this empire, so his daughter-in-law could run around chasing stories. My best friend Kira's words from my wedding day echoed in my head. That woman's going to be a nightmare. I should have listened. I can manage both, I insisted. Many women do. Many women aren't Craig women, Anthea replied smoothly, taking a sip of her wine. Now, who would like dessert? Later that night, as Emery and I got ready for bed in our apartment, the tension finally broke. I'm sorry about Mom, he said, pulling me close. She's traditional. Traditional? She's practically Victorian. I buried my face in his chest. Do you remember our wedding day? When she gave that speech about molding me into a proper Craig woman? She means well. Does she? I pulled away to look at him. Because it feels like she's trying to erase everything that makes me. Me. Give her time. She'll come around when she sees how talented you are. My phone buzzed. A text from Ren, my editor at the local magazine where I freelanced. Story approved. Deadline next week. This could be your big break. Speaking of talent, I showed Emery the message. I got the green light on that corruption piece I told you about. His face lit up. That's amazing. See? This is why you can't give up. You're meant for this. Try telling that to your mother. Maybe we should invite her to dinner, just us. Let her see the real you. I laughed. The real me? You mean the one she's been trying to suppress since day one? Sydney. I know. She's your mother. I sighed, sitting on the edge of our bed. But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. This job at the Chronicle, it's everything I've worked for. Then take it, Emery said firmly. I'll support you, whatever Mom says. I looked up at him, this man who stood between two worlds. His mother's traditional values and his wife's modern ambitions. Promise? Promise. He kissed my forehead. Besides, who knows? Maybe Mom will surprise us. But as I lay in bed that night, watching Mumbai's lights twinkle through our window, I knew better. Anthea Craig didn't do surprises. She did expectations. And I had just declared war on every single one of them. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ren. By the way, heard through the grapevine that Blaze is back in town. Might be competing for the same story. Perfect. Just perfect. My first love and biggest rival from college now thrown into the mix. As if dealing with Anthea wasn't complicated enough. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow I'd start my new job at the Chronicle, step into the newsroom and prove to everyone, especially Anthea, that I could be both a Craig woman and a journalist. Let the games begin. London? I nearly choked on my coffee. You can't be serious. Emery paced our living room, his tie loosened after a long day at the office. It's a huge opportunity, Sydney. The firm wants me to head their European division. And your mother just happened to suggest this to the board? I set my mug down harder than intended, coffee sloshing onto our coffee table. She's looking out for us, he said, but wouldn't meet my eyes. Think about it. London's amazing for journalism, too. I just started at the Chronicle. I grabbed my laptop, pulling up the draft of my corruption story. Look at this. I'm investigating corporate fraud at one of Mumbai's biggest tech companies. This could be huge. The doorbell rang, saving Emery from responding. My heart sank when I opened the door to find Anthea, immaculately dressed as always. Surprise. She breezed past me, air kissing Emery's cheeks. I brought dinner, and the London property listings you asked for, darling. I shot Emery a look. He'd already asked for listings. Actually, Mom, Emery started, we haven't decided. Nonsense, it's practically settled. Anthea spread the glossy brochures across our dining table. This townhouse in Kensington would be perfect for starting a family. My phone buzzed. A message from Ren. Source willing to talk. Meeting tonight. Crucial for the story. I have to go, I announced, grabbing my bag. Work emergency. Anthea's smile tightened. More important than family dinner? It's my job, Anthea. A job you won't need in London, she replied smoothly. The Craig family has connections with all the right social circles there. I turned to Emery. Are you going to say anything? He shifted uncomfortably. Mom's right about the opportunity. Unbelievable. I headed for the door, but Anthea's voice stopped me. You know, dear, I gave up a promising career in dance for this family. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for greater happiness. I spun around. Is that what you tell Aurora about her photography? The room went silent. Even Anthea looked shocked at my outburst. I'll be late, I muttered, hurrying out before anyone could respond. The cafe where I met my source was crowded, but I spotted Kira immediately at our usual corner table. You look like hell, she said as I collapsed into the chair. Anthea's trying to ship us off to London. I ordered an espresso, then lowered my voice. Where's the source? About that. Kira glanced toward the door. Don't freak out. Blaze walked in, looking annoyingly handsome in his pressed shirt and journalist badge. My stomach dropped. You're the source? He slid into the seat across from me. Surprised? I've been working this story for months. Of course you have. I started gathering my things. I'm not interested in your leftovers, Blaze. Even if it involves your father-in-law's company? I froze. What? The tech company you're investigating? Craig Enterprises is their biggest investor. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here, but I want shared byline. Why are you helping me? Because unlike some people, I believe in the story more than the glory. He smirked. Usually. My phone buzzed again. Emery. Where are you? Mom's upset. Please come home. Take it, Blaze said, sliding the drive across the table. But decide fast. Story breaks in 48 hours, with or without you. I stared at the drive. If what Blaze said was true, this story wouldn't just rock Mumbai's corporate world, it would blow my marriage apart. Sydney? Kira touched my arm. You okay? No. I pocketed the drive. But I'm going to do my job anyway. When I got home, the apartment was dark except for Emery's desk lamp. He looked up as I entered. Mom's gone, he said quietly. She left the brochures. I'm not going to London. Sid, no. I pulled out the USB drive. Your father's company is involved in my story. Did you know? His silence was answer enough. Were you ever going to tell me? Or was London just a convenient escape plan? It's complicated, he said. Dad's not directly involved. That's not the point. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. Your mother orchestrated this whole thing to protect the family name, didn't she? She's trying to protect you too, he said softly. Once the story breaks, I don't need protection. I need support. I need my husband to stand with me, not plot my exit strategy with his mother. Emery stood, reaching for me, but I stepped back. I'm staying at Kira's tonight, I said, heading to our bedroom to pack a bag. I need to think. Sydney, please. You know what hurts the most? I paused at the door. I actually believed you when you said you'd support me. Guess your mother was right about one thing. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary. I just never thought I'd have to sacrifice my marriage for the truth. 3 days at Kira's turned into a week. I threw myself into work, writing under the pseudonym Arya Stone to protect my investigation. The USB drive from Blaze proved invaluable, though I hated admitting it. Your mother-in-law's calling again, Kira said, holding up my phone. That's the 3rd time today. I kept typing. Let it ring. And Emery's texted 6 times. I can't deal with them right now. I gestured to my laptop screen. The story's almost ready. Look at these financial records. They've been siphoning millions through fake contracts. Sydney, Kira closed my laptop. You need to go home. I am home. To your actual home. To your husband. The doorbell rang before I could argue. Kira answered it, and to my surprise, Aurora walked in, carrying a familiar-looking camera. Hey, she said softly. Can we talk? I nodded, following her to Kira's balcony. The Mumbai sunset painted the sky orange, reminding me of countless evening teas with Anthea where I'd bit my tongue and played the perfect daughter-in-law. Mom's on the warpath, Aurora said, fiddling with her camera. She's convinced you're trying to destroy the family. I'm trying to do my job. I know. She raised the camera, snapping a quick photo of the sunset. That's why I brought you these. She pulled out an envelope stuffed with photographs. They showed various Craig Enterprises events, but focused on suspicious meetings between executives and the tech company I was investigating. You've been documenting everything, I whispered. Photography's not just a silly hobby. Aurora smiled sadly. Mom made me stop showing my work, but I never stopped taking pictures. Why are you helping me? Because you're doing what I couldn't, standing up to her. She handed me the envelope. But Sydney, be careful. Mom's not just angry, she's scared. Of what? Of you exposing what Dad's company has been doing? Of losing control? Of everything changing? Aurora took another photo, this time of me. She made me give up my dreams. Don't let her take yours too. My phone buzzed. Ren. Story's going to print tomorrow. Last chance to put your real name on it. I can't use my real name, I said, mostly to myself. It would destroy Emery. Maybe that's not your responsibility anymore, Aurora replied. Later that night, I finally went home. The apartment was dark, but Emery was awake, sitting in our kitchen. You're back, he said, voice rough. Just to get some clothes. The story comes out tomorrow, doesn't it? He stood up. Mom's lawyer called. They're prepared to sue if... Sue? I laughed bitterly. For reporting the truth? For defamation? For breaking confidentiality agreements you signed when we married? I never signed anything. Check the wedding paperwork again. He ran a hand through his hair. Mom thinks of everything. I started toward our bedroom, but he caught my arm. Wait, he said. I found an apartment in London. We could leave tonight. Start fresh. Run away, you mean? Let your father's company keep stealing? Let your mother keep controlling everyone's lives? I'm trying to save our marriage. By helping them bury the truth? I pulled away. That's not saving anything, Emery. That's surrender. A key turned in the lock. Only one other person had a key. Anthea walked in, perfectly composed despite the late hour. I thought I heard voices, she said. Sydney, dear, you're looking rather tired. London would do wonders for your complexion. Stop it, I snapped. Just stop. I know what you did with the wedding paperwork. I know you're trying to silence me. I'm trying to protect this family. Something you seem incapable of understanding. By forcing Aurora to give up photography? By making me choose between my marriage and my integrity? By ensuring we survive. Anthea's composure cracked. Do you think I enjoyed giving up dance? That I don't see Aurora's talent? But survival means sacrifice. No, I said, suddenly calm. Survival means growth. Change. Evolution. Everything you're fighting against. My phone buzzed one final time. Ren. Deadline in 1 hour. Your name or the pseudonym? I looked at Emery, then at Anthea. The story runs tomorrow, under my real name. Then you've made your choice, Anthea said coldly. Yes, I replied, heading to the bedroom to pack. I choose truth. I choose integrity. I choose to be someone Aurora can look up to, instead of another cautionary tale about dreams sacrificed on the altar of family reputation. Sydney, please, Emery called after me. We can figure this out. But as I packed my bags, I knew there was no figuring it out. Tomorrow, my name would be on a story that would shake Mumbai's corporate world. Tomorrow, I would stop being Anthea's project and start being myself. Tomorrow, everything would change. The morning my story broke, Mumbai seemed to hold its breath. I sat in the Chronicle's break room, watching my phone explode with notifications while Ren paced nearby. It's been shared 10,000 times already, she said, refreshing her screen. The tech company's stock is plummeting. My hands shook as I scrolled through messages. Kira had sent 17 texts. Aurora, 3 missed calls. Emery, nothing. Sydney? Blaze burst into the room, waving his phone. Have you seen the latest? Your father-in-law just resigned as CEO. Before I could respond, Ren's assistant rushed in. There's someone here to see you, Sydney. Says she's your mother-in-law's sister? Marley walked in, looking nothing like Anthea in her paint-splattered jeans and messy bun. Hey, kid. Got a minute? We found a quiet cafe across the street. Marley ordered espresso while I picked at a croissant. So, she said, you did it. You actually stood up to my sister. How bad is it? Bad enough that she's called a family emergency meeting. Good enough that 3 other whistleblowers have come forward. She leaned forward. But that's not why I'm here. She pulled out her phone, showing me an old newspaper clipping. A young Anthea in a dancer's pose, headlines praising her upcoming debut at the National Theater. What happened? I asked. Father died. Family business was failing. She gave up everything to marry into the right family, save everyone from ruin. Marley sighed. Sound familiar? My phone buzzed. A message from Aurora. Mom's losing it. Come to the house, please. I can't face them, I said. Can't? Or won't? Marley stood up. You wrote the truth, Sydney. Now live with it. The Craig mansion looked smaller somehow as I walked up the driveway. Aurora met me at the door, camera hanging around her neck. Thank God, she whispered. Mom's in the study with the lawyers. Emery just got back from London. London? He flew out right after your story broke, trying to salvage business relationships. The study door opened. Emery walked out, looking exhausted. He froze when he saw me. You're here, he said flatly. Aurora called. Did she tell you Dad's under investigation? That our accounts are frozen? That Mom... He stopped, running his hands through his hair. Why didn't you warn us? Would it have changed anything? We could have prepared. Instead, I spent 3 days watching everything fall apart. Everything was already falling apart. I stepped closer. Your father was stealing millions. Your mother was suffocating everyone's dreams. How long were we supposed to pretend everything was fine? The study door slammed open. Anthea emerged, lawyers trailing behind her. Well, she said, voice ice cold. If it isn't the journalist of the hour. Anthea, no. She held up a hand. You've said quite enough in print. Now you'll listen. She dismissed the lawyers with a wave. Do you know what your story has cost us? Not just money or reputation, but family. Aurora's engagement was called off this morning. The scandal, you see. Aurora gasped. I hadn't known she was engaged. Mom, she protested. That was my choice. I ended it because he tried to make me stop photography, just like you did. And you! Anthea turned on her daughter, sneaking around with that camera, helping her gather evidence. Evidence that was true, Aurora shot back. Truth? Anthea laughed bitterly. Truth is what we make it, dear. I learned that when I gave up dance, when I married your father, when I built this family from nothing. You didn't build it, I said quietly. You buried it. Buried yourself, buried Aurora's talent, tried to bury me. I tried to save you from yourself by forcing me to choose between my integrity and my marriage, by showing you what really matters. What matters? Emery's voice cut through the argument. How about this? He held up his phone, showing a news alert. Craig Enterprises fraud. More victims come forward. These are real people, Mom, he said. Real lives ruined because we all kept quiet. Because we chose family reputation over right and wrong. Anthea sank into a chair, suddenly looking older. Everything I did for this family. No, Aurora said, raising her camera. Everything you did because of your own regrets. The camera clicked, capturing Anthea's moment of vulnerability. For once, she didn't object. My phone buzzed again. Ren. Magazine wants your story, cover feature. Your journey from wife to whistleblower. I looked at my broken family. Anthea, lost in her fortress of control. Emery, torn between loyalty and truth. Aurora, finally finding her voice through her lens. The magazine can wait, I said, putting my phone away. We need to talk. Really talk. About everything. Why? Anthea asked, voice barely a whisper. Because that's what family does, I replied. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Tell me about the dance recital, I said, setting a cup of tea in front of Anthea. We sat in her private sitting room, surrounded by old photographs I'd never noticed before. Young Anthea in a tutu. Anthea at the bar. Anthea soaring across a stage. It was to be my breakthrough performance, she said, touching one of the frames. Principal dancer, Romeo and Juliet. What happened that night? Father had a heart attack, hours before curtain call. Her fingers trembled around the teacup. The company director said I could postpone. But the hospital bills... Aurora sat cross-legged on the floor, documenting everything with her camera. Click, click, click. Put that thing away, Anthea snapped, but without her usual venom. No, Aurora replied quietly. This needs to be remembered. Marley arrived then, carrying a dusty box. Found it in the attic. Thought you might want these. She pulled out yellowed newspapers, playbills, dance shoes worn to shreds. Anthea's hands shook as she touched them. The night I met your father, she said to Emery, I was wearing these shoes. Last performance before. She swallowed hard. Before I became Mrs. Craig. Why didn't you ever tell us? Emery asked, sitting beside her. What was there to tell? I made my choice. Sacrifice for security. She looked at me. Sound familiar? Except you're trying to force that same choice on everyone else, I said. You're making Aurora hide her talent, trying to make me give up my career. I was protecting you. From what? Following our dreams? Being fulfilled? From disappointment. Anthea stood suddenly, photographs scattering. From having everything you love ripped away because of responsibility. From becoming... She gestured to herself. This. The room fell silent except for Aurora's camera. Click. Mom, Emery said softly. Is that why you pushed the London move? To stop Sydney before she got too invested? I saw the signs, Anthea whispered. The late nights, the passion in her eyes, the way she lit up talking about her work. Just like I used to. Marley pulled something else from the box. A letter, edges worn. Remember this? Your acceptance to the Paris Opera Ballet. You were accepted to Paris? Aurora lowered her camera. 2 weeks after father died. Anthea took the letter, hands trembling. I burned the original. How did you? I saved a copy, Marley said. Thought someday you'd want to remember who you were, before you started forcing everyone else to forget who they are. My phone buzzed. Ren again. Magazine deadline tomorrow. Are you in? The magazine wants me to tell my story, I said. The whole story. To drag our name through the mud again? Anthea's walls started rising. No, I set my phone down. To tell the truth about sacrifice, about choices, about how trying to protect people from pain sometimes causes more damage than letting them risk getting hurt. They'll paint me as the villain. Only if you keep acting like one. I moved closer to her. But what if instead we tell a different story? About a brilliant dancer who gave up everything for her family, who got so scared of seeing history repeat itself that she forgot something important. What's that? That sometimes the biggest act of love is letting people choose their own path. Aurora raised her camera again, but this time Anthea didn't object. Click. I found your old dance videos, Aurora said. In the attic. You were magnificent. I was free, Anthea corrected, touching another photograph. Until I convinced myself that freedom was selfish. Emery picked up one of the playbills. You could teach, you know. The dance academy downtown is looking for instructors. Don't be ridiculous. At my age... Mom, he interrupted. Stop deciding things are impossible before trying them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Blaze. More whistleblowers coming forward. Stories getting bigger. Need your insight. The magazine deadline is tomorrow, I said. But I won't write it without your blessing, Anthea. She stared at me for a long moment. Why ask my permission now? You didn't before. Because this isn't about exposing corruption anymore. It's about healing. And I can't help heal this family if I'm still trying to hurt you. Marley pulled one last item from the box, a DVD labeled Final Rehearsal, Romeo and Juliet. What do you say, sis? She asked. Ready to remember who you were? So you can finally see who everyone else is trying to be? Anthea looked around the room. At Aurora with her camera, at Emery holding the playbill, at me with my phone full of deadlines and stories. For the first time, she seemed to really see us. Yes, she whispered. Put on the video. As young Anthea danced across the screen, Aurora kept photographing, documenting not just the past on TV, but the present in the room. The walls coming down. The truth breaking through. Click, click, click. You're really going through with this? Kira asked, adjusting my blazer as we stood outside the Craig mansion. A high tea? After everything? Anthea's idea, I said, clutching my advance copy of the magazine. She wants to face things properly, whatever that means. The garden was set up exactly as Anthea liked. Bone china teacups, silver service, tiny sandwiches arranged just so. Mumbai's elite mingled awkwardly, clearly unsure whether to acknowledge the scandal or pretend everything was normal. Sydney. Blaze appeared, notepad in hand. Quite a turnout. Mind if I cover this for the Chronicle? Actually, I started, but Anthea's voice cut through the crowd. Mr. Phillips, welcome. She glided over, every inch the perfect hostess. Please do stay. I believe you'll find today's events newsworthy. I shot her a questioning look, but she was already moving away, greeting other guests. Aurora circulated with her camera, documenting everything. Where's Emery? I asked when she passed by. Getting Mom's surprise ready, she whispered, then disappeared into the crowd. The guests settled around elegant garden tables. I found myself seated between Kira and Marley, directly across from Anthea. The magazine burned in my lap. Friends, family. Anthea stood, tapping her teacup gently. Thank you for coming. I know recent events have caused quite a stir. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Many of you are wondering why I've gathered you here today. Some might expect damage control, or perhaps a public denouncement of recent revelations. Her eyes met mine. I held my breath. Instead, I want to share something else. She nodded toward the house. Music began to play, the Romeo and Juliet ballet score. Emery emerged carrying a projector screen. Behind him, Aurora set up a laptop. The video from the attic began playing, young Anthea dancing, full of passion and promise. 30 years ago, I made a choice. Anthea continued as her younger self twirled on screen. I chose security over passion, safety over art, and then I spent decades forcing others to make the same choice. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the Anthea they knew. My daughter-in-law recently wrote an exposé that shook our family to its core, but she also wrote another story. Anthea gestured to the magazine in my lap. Sydney, would you share it? Hands trembling, I opened to the cover story. The Price of Silence, How 3 Generations of Women Found Their Voice. Read it, Anthea said softly. Please. I cleared my throat. In a mansion in Mumbai, 3 women wage silent wars with their dreams. A dancer who gave up her passion to save her family. A photographer whose lens captures truth in shadows. A journalist seeking stories in the spaces between duty and desire. This is not a story about corruption, though corruption brought it to light. This is a story about the price we pay for silence and the power we find in breaking it. The crowd was silent. On screen, young Anthea continued to dance. My daughter Aurora, Anthea gestured to where Aurora stood with her camera, will be hosting her first photography exhibition next month. And she took a deep breath, will be teaching dance at the Mumbai Academy of Arts, sharing what I should never have hidden. Marley reached for her sister's hand. For once, Anthea didn't pull away. As for Sydney, Anthea turned to me. She has shown me that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is tell the truth, even when that truth hurts, especially when it hurts. Emery appeared at my side, squeezing my shoulder. The gesture said everything we hadn't been able to say to each other since the story broke. The magazine hits stands tomorrow, I said, standing to join Anthea, along with announcements of full restitution to everyone affected by the corporate fraud. Right, Emery? He nodded. Every penny. And the London position? Someone called out. Has been declined, Emery replied. My place is here, supporting my wife's career just as she supports mine. Blaze was scribbling furiously in his notepad. Anthea actually smiled at him. Write what you see, she said. All of it. No more hiding. The video ended with young Anthea's final bow. Present-day Anthea watched herself, tears in her eyes. I spent so long being afraid, she said, mostly to herself. Afraid of losing control, of seeing others make my mistakes, of facing my own regrets. And now? I asked. She straightened her shoulders, every inch the dancer she used to be. Now, I think it's time for a different kind of control. The kind that comes from letting go. Aurora raised her camera one last time, capturing the moment. Anthea and me, standing together. Emery beside us. Marley wiping away tears. The truth finally set free. Click. Well, Anthea picked up her teacup, a real smile playing at her lips. Shall we have some tea? I believe we have quite a lot to talk about. The tension broke. Conversations erupted. And somewhere in the garden of secrets and silence, something new began to bloom. 5 minutes until your first class, I said, watching Anthea adjust her dance shoes in the studio mirror. 2 weeks had passed since the high tea. The magazine story had gone viral, but this moment felt bigger somehow. Anthea returning to dance after 30 years. The leotard still fits, she said, smoothing invisible wrinkles, though I doubt I can still do a proper grand jeté. You don't have to be perfect, I reminded her, just authentic. Young girls in tutus started filing into the studio, whispering when they recognized us from the magazine cover. Aurora set up her tripod in the corner. She was documenting Anthea's journey back to dance for her exhibition. Mrs. Craig? A tiny ballerina tugged at Anthea's sleeve. Is it true you almost danced, Juliet? Before Anthea could answer, Emery burst into the studio. "Sorry I'm late. Didn't want to miss this." "You came?" Anthea's voice wavered. "Of course." He hugged her. "When have I ever seen my mother dance?" The piano started playing. Anthea took her position at the bar, back straight, chin lifted. For a moment, I saw the young dancer from the video, full of dreams and fire. "First position, girls," she called out, her voice strong and clear. I slipped out, leaving Aurora to capture the moment. In the hallway, I found Marley hanging old performance photos. "She's really doing it," Marley said, adjusting a frame. "Never thought I'd see the day." "A lot of things I never thought I'd see," I replied. "Like you and her talking again. Time heals, so does truth." She handed me a photo. "Speaking of which, how are things with Emery?" I studied the picture. Young Anthea and Marley at a recital, both smiling. "We're working on it. Counseling helps, so does not having to hide anymore." My phone buzzed. Ren. Follow-up story idea. Interview with Anthea about her dance academy? "Already ahead of you," I texted back, attaching Aurora's photos from that morning. Music floated from the studio. Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. I peeked in to see Anthea demonstrating a turn, not quite as graceful as her younger self, but somehow more powerful. "Mom, that was beautiful," Aurora called out, checking her camera screen. "It was sloppy," Anthea replied, but she was smiling. "Again, girls. Watch the arms." "Sydney." Emery appeared beside me. "Can we talk?" We found a quiet corner in the Academy's cafe, the same cafe where weeks ago I'd chosen truth over family loyalty. "I've been thinking," he said, fiddling with his coffee cup, "about London, about everything." "Emery, let me finish. I was wrong. Not just about London, but about choosing silence over honesty. About not standing up to Mom sooner. We were all wrong in different ways," I said. "Even me. I could have handled the story differently." "No." He reached for my hand. "You did exactly what needed to be done. Look at Mom now. She's teaching dance. Aurora's planning her exhibition. Dad's making amends. All because you were brave enough to break the silence." Through the window, we could see Anthea's class letting out. Girls streamed from the studio, chattering excitedly. Anthea emerged last, looking tired but alive in a way I'd never seen before. "Sydney," she called out when she spotted us. "Come here a moment." In the studio, she went to the piano and pulled out an old envelope. "I found something you should have." Inside was a newspaper clipping, my first byline from college. "How did you get this? Emery used to send me everything you wrote, even when I pretended not to care." She touched the yellowed paper gently. "I recognized your talent. It scared me." "Because it reminded you of yourself?" "Because I knew I couldn't control it, just like dance couldn't be controlled." She moved to the bar, assuming first position. "But some things aren't meant to be controlled. They're meant to be set free." Aurora appeared with her camera. "Mom, can I get a few more shots? The light's perfect." "Actually," Anthea said, "why don't you give the camera to Emery? Come join me at the bar." "What?" "You have a dancer's build. I've always noticed." Anthea patted the bar. "Let's see if photography isn't your only inherited talent." I took the camera from Aurora, watching through the lens as mother and daughter moved through basic positions. Their reflection in the mirror showed matching expressions: concentration, discovery, joy. Click. "Sydney?" Anthea called out. "There's room for one more." "Oh no," I laughed. "I'm a writer, not a dancer. And I'm a dancer who became a housewife who became a teacher." She held out her hand. "Sometimes the best stories are the ones that surprise us." Emery took the camera from me, grinning. "Go on, I want to document this." So there we were, journalist, photographer, and reformed control freak, learning basic ballet positions while Emery captured it all on film. And somehow, in that sunlit studio, we found a new kind of family rhythm. Click, click, click. Ready? Aurora adjusted the lighting one last time, her exhibition opening just minutes away. The gallery walls showcased her journey. Candid shots of Anthea teaching dance, moments from my investigation, the high tea revelation. But the centerpiece was different. A massive portrait of 3 generations of Craig women taken in the dance studio. The prodigal daughter returns. Blaze walked in, press badge hanging from his neck. Nice turnout. You're actually invited this time, I teased. No need for the badge. Old habits. He gestured to the crowd gathering outside. Half of Mumbai's media is here. You've started quite a revolution, Sydney. Before I could respond, Kira rushed over. They're here. Anthea entered first, wearing a dress that echoed her old ballet costumes. Behind her, Emery helped Marley carry in a covered frame. Last addition to the exhibition, Aurora explained, taking the frame. Mom's idea. The gallery doors opened. People flooded in, drawn immediately to the wall-sized photos. I heard gasps as they recognized faces, pieced together the story told through Aurora's lens. Sydney? Anthea touched my arm. Come with me? She led me to a quiet corner where the covered frame waited. Before Aurora unveils this, I want you to see it first. She pulled away the cloth. There, beautifully framed, was my original article about the corporate fraud, side by side with the magazine cover story. Between them, a handwritten note. To my daughter-in-law, who taught me that the truth doesn't break families. Secrets do. Anthea. My voice caught. I was wrong about so many things, she said. But I was most wrong about you. Everyone, Aurora called out. If I could have your attention, the crowd gathered. I noticed familiar faces. Wren from the Chronicle, my sources from the investigation, even some of Anthea's ballet students. This exhibition is called Breaking Silence, Aurora began. It's about truth, family, and the courage to be who you really are. She unveiled the final piece. And it's dedicated to 2 women who showed me that courage firsthand. Applause filled the gallery. Emery appeared beside me, slipping his hand into mine. There's something else, he whispered. Watch, Mom. Anthea moved to the center of the room, her dancer's grace evident in every step. When my daughter-in-law first exposed our family's secrets, I thought she was destroying us. Instead, she forced us to rebuild something better. She gestured to the photos. These images tell a story of transformation. But transformation isn't just about changing. It's about returning to who you were always meant to be. The gallery lights dimmed. A spotlight appeared. Music began to play. Romeo and Juliet. Oh my God, I whispered, recognizing the piece from her old rehearsal video. Anthea took position. The crowd fell silent as she began to dance. Not the complex choreography of her youth, but something simpler, more powerful. A dance of redemption. Aurora raised her camera. Click. When the music ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the gallery. Anthea held her final pose, tears streaming down her face. Brava, Marley called out, starting a wave of applause. I have an announcement, Anthea said once the clapping subsided. The Academy is expanding. We're adding a photography studio and a journalism workshop. Because art isn't just about dance, it's about every voice that needs to be heard. She turned to me. Sydney, I hope you'll teach some classes. Show others how to tell their truth. Only if you'll teach me more ballet, I replied, making her laugh. Deal. The evening continued, but the real story was in the quiet moments. Aurora showing her students around the exhibition. Emery proudly explaining his mother's dance to guests. Marley and Anthea planning the Academy's expansion. Quite a change from family dinners with perfect table settings, Kira commented, handing me a champagne flute. Everything's changed, I said, watching Anthea demonstrate a dance position to an entranced group of journalists. Not everything. Emery joined us. Some things just got stronger. My phone buzzed. Ren again. But this time I didn't check it. Whatever story was breaking could wait. The real story was here, in this room, in these moments of truth and reconciliation. Sydney, Aurora called. Family photo. I joined them under the centerpiece portrait. Journalist, dancer, photographer, all of us exactly who we were meant to be. No more perfect table settings or polite silences. Just truth, in all its messy, beautiful glory. Everyone ready? Blaze held up Aurora's camera. Say truth. We laughed, the sound echoing through the gallery like music, like freedom, like family. Click. The camera captured us mid-laugh, imperfect and real. And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't endings at all. They're beginnings, disguised as revelations. They're truths, waiting to be told. They're stories, waiting to be lived.